Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So today we're moving on to the next letter, and it's a letter to Vaikunthanath and Saradia Mataji. So these are really very young devotees who just got married, and Prabhupada is encouraging them in their marriage and how to see it as sacred and how to utilize their Grihastha ashram for propagating Krishna consciousness, and their remarkable service that they've done in Trinidad and Guyana, which is a town nearby there. So let's hear Prabhupada's wonderful encouraging letter to them. So it starts at the top, letter to Vaikunthanath and Saradia, Bombay, 4th April 1971. And then Prabhupada's famous reverse numeric writing of the date, 71/4 of the 4th. And then he says Georgetown, Guyana. And then he says, "My dear Vaikunthanath and Saradia, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your very encouraging letter dated 21st March 1971. So we can see Prabhupada, you remember we were observing that Prabhupada was very particular that the date has to be written. And here he's quoted the date again. And then he says, "And have noted the contents carefully." Prabhupada reads the letters very carefully. "I am so glad and proud of you that you two young boy and girl have gone to Trinidad to preach the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and you have impressed the public so nicely by your preaching work." Wow! To get a opening message of a letter from your spiritual master in that way is just so encouraging, huh? Prabhupada is saying, "I'm so encouraged to hear that you made these kind of efforts." We must also remember these were very simple young devotees, just like the London outreach by Malti Mataji, Shamasundar, Yamuna, Gurudas, and the little child Saraswati. So this is just a young family, and they extending themselves to go to another country without anything, just to preach and help Srila Prabhupada. This is so remarkable, the spirit of preaching. This is actually the spirit of a sannyasi. So Prabhupada has instilled a sannyasi spirit into the hearts of his disciples. I was just remembering on this point that in the early years we also had this spirit very strongly. I'm remembering the Pretoria temple. Those devotees who started it, you must know it was just post-apartheid. So there was no more apartheid law, but people were getting used to the idea of a cosmopolitan society and practically living in it. So at that time, 3 devotees from Cape Town, Jivananda Prabhu, Subal Saka Prabhu, and Sri Vrindavan Prabhu. So they were all from different ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds. Jivananda Prabhu was from a European white background, so-called at that time. And Subal Saka Prabhu was from the Indian background, and Sri Vrindavan Prabhu was from the African background. So what they did, they used that identification to propagate Krishna consciousness. So how do they do it? So the 3 of them went to Pretoria, rented a house, and they stayed together. And you can imagine, people were just getting used to the idea of talking and mixing with all different a cosmopolitan society. And here these three are staying together. Wow, this was remarkable. And then the newspapers and everybody start coming to interview them. And then they started to preach that way. They called and they managed to get a place on the main street there. I think it's Church Street. And there's all the different embassies on that road. So they put a board outside their place called Spiritual Embassy, which was quite nice. And they did remarkably well. And we have a center there now due to their efforts in the early years. And they did really good book distribution, preaching programs. It was really amazing. So the point is that this simplicity of desire to preach, Prabhupada fans that, and he encourages from that level, because you are really doing outreach, you're really doing the work of a sannyasi. He goes on to say, may Lord Chaitanya bless you and bestow his benediction upon you always. Wow. Words like that just ring in your heart. You know, you never forget words like that. So may Lord Chaitanya bless, and may he always, may he always be. What did Prabhupada say here? May his benediction be upon you always. Wow. That's really encouraging. So he goes on to say, the news of your newly established temple in Trinidad, San Fernando, is so much encouraging, and now Kanupriya and his wife are running that center in your absence. So what they did, they opened a center in Trinidad, and now they're moving to Guyana to open up another center there. Just see. So Prabhupada is encouraging because, as he will say, he was familiar with those areas, and he was invited to come and preach there. And now he's saying, my disciples are doing my work for me. Wow. He goes on to say, long ago I was invited by the people of Trinidad, but at that time I could not go, although I had great desire to go there. I think if I remember that even His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj did a lot of preaching there after they opened the center, and he came and also put a lot of effort in preaching in Trinidad, Guyana, those Barbados, those kind of areas. Now you are fulfilling my desire. Wow. Just see, Prabhupada's words just hit into the heart. You are doing my desire. This is what I wanted, and now you're doing it. How satisfying the disciple feels. Now you have gone to Guyana. Dr. Balwant Singh has written to me how well you are being received there also. So take advantage and immediately open a center. So Prabhupada is saying, now that you've gone to Guyana, immediately try to open up some kind of a preaching center there. It is a good field for selling our literature. 5,000 BTG per month to start is very encouraging. So I think they must have written in their letter that they were doing 5,000 BTGs a month, and BTGs are not easy to sell. So 5,000 at that time was very good. And the inhabitants are cooperative, so it is the ideal opportunity to open a center. So Trinidad or Guyana, one center should be established very nicely. Just like we have got our LA center and so many smaller centers, similarly, in that quarter of the world, there must be a very nice center. So concentrate your efforts in that way. Another word for concentrate, cooperate. All of you should cooperate, and this is my desire. I want a center to come up in that area, so please fulfill this desire of mine. So the devotees are very excited now, you can see that. He then goes on to say, and when things are ready, I shall send you deities. Oh, wow. So Prabhupada is already seeing that far, that there are going to be deities installed there. And when the situation is favorable, I shall go there also. So not only that, he'll probably come and install it. So they're very encouraged, and they really, now I'm sure the devotees really want Prabhupada to come there and see the efforts they put in. I remember the days when Saradia expressed to marry you. So Prabhupada is like the father now, and he's talking to both of them, this young couple, and look at the efforts they're putting. And Prabhupada is, father to children, this is his own children. This is like his children, so he's talking to them in such a fatherly way. I remember the day when Saradia wanted to marry you, and I immediately reserved you for marriage to Saradia. So Prabhupada could see the natures that this couple was compatible, and he arranged for them. Later on in Boston, when you were married, and since then you are working so nicely. I am very pleased upon you. Similarly, use this marital life for spreading the glories of Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying now, this is the key point, that even grihastas who feel sometimes that they can't do enough, they're not full-time dedicated preachers or anything, but this simple effort of this couple, look at how pleased Prabhupada is. So Prabhupada is saying, use this marital life also, just like those devotees who established the Pretoria temple. They used whatever was available to them to preach. And this is a very powerful benediction Prabhupada gives here. And in this very lifetime, you will be promoted to associate with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Wow! Just because you tried to do something, some outreach, some preaching. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be on the scale of opening up a new center, but do something for Krishna. Ask in your heart, what can I do? Pray to Radharani. We heard that in Vrindavaneshwari Mataji's letter. Pray to Radharani. Ask in your heart, because that's the only way you'll be satisfied. Nothing in this material world will satisfy us. And Prabhupada says, so please stay on the purity platform. Now he's giving guidelines of how to achieve that, and it's very simple in essence. What is he saying? Stay on the purity platform, number 1. Chant 16 rounds daily, number 2, and without fail. Follow all the regulative principles, number 3, and read all our books, number 4. These 4 things is the essence. So Prabhupada said, if you just do this with a full, pure, sincere heart, then what is the result? And your life is sure to be successful. Unless one is sufficiently empowered, one cannot preach Krishna consciousness. So the fact that you are preaching so nicely is proof that you are already benedicted by Krishna. Wow. So it just takes that first effort, that first step, because it is an unknown. And we don't know what Krishna can do and how he can do things. He's shown in the past where he's turned thieves, Valmiki, plunderers. He's turned the hunter into a devotee. He turned Jagai and Madai. So we don't know who can be used as an instrument of Krishna. So if we have the desire, who knows? It could be us. So try. Prabhupada says here, so preach Krishna consciousness and be happy. Hoping this will meet you in good health, your ever well-wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So what a beautiful, encouraging letter for anyone reading that I can try and do something, whatever it is. Make some effort. Some devotees recently was telling me that they're starting to cook because that's the need at the moment. They're doing 300 eggs of prasadam to be distributed. Wonderful. That's their offering, that's their effort. Prabhupada will be so pleased, Krishna will be so pleased, the people who receive it will be so pleased, and you'll feel so satisfied by your effort. So try and see what Krishna has in store for us. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please join us again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.